It is a beautiful Saturday morning. Good morning, gang. It's Kevin. And like promised, I told you guys that I would be giving you guys some updates and some different things that I wanted to talk about that were old news. And so here we are. You hear the birds chirping? The birds want to hear it. Birds want to hear it. So, where are we going with this first one? The first one is the ridiculousness of the internet and people's, because this will be like a two-parter. I'll probably release the other one like later tonight or tomorrow. But the first part is, and they all stem together, is people's ridiculous attachment to animals. And I think it all stems from like bad decision making. It stems from kind of like the moral fabric of our society deteriorating, right? So like way back when you had a mother and a father that would take you to places like churches that would, teach you things that you probably should know and like have a moral code to live by your whole life. Like, like human life is like very important. And so that's why like people that agree with capital punishment, like yours truly, when you do very heinous acts or you disregard human life, like you've now null and voided the regard we should have for your human life. So things like that. Like, and this one got me the other day because I was thinking about it, and it's like people get angry. They're like, oh, there's people from other countries coming over here. Because here's the thing is like when you have a value for human life, then it's not just like humans are very tribal in how we've evolved. And so life is based on the two different things, right? So it's like having those moral, and we'll get back to this, I guess, is the moral value, like your decision making, like making good decisions. Well, the good decision making has to come from somewhere, right? It comes from experience, and it comes from like moral groundedness, like where your morality lies, like where you determine is good and evil, right? And that's basically what you're taught through experience, right? Experience of growing up, things like that. So now let's put a pin in that. As a country, and this is where the tribalism comes in. As a country, yes, we value human life. And the lives of people of our country are more important to us, right? You still have to have a hierarchy, right? So within the category of like all other creatures, humans, we put humans above all other creatures. But then within that category, let's zoom in. All right, now in here, it's us, right? You're always going to have that self-preservation, right? And in that category of like us, right? Like as a man, I'm going to put my kids and my wife over top of my life. And that's also why like men systemically have, I got to get that word out of my vocabulary. I just hate that word. It's been done to death. Anyways, typically men will go and die in war. Men will typically go out there and, they'll typically go out there and die in war. And can I help you?
Can I be in the podcast?
Yeah, maybe one. We're going to do one in a little bit later, okay? Let me finish this one up, all right? Thanks, kiddo.
Can I have my iPad?
In just a little bit, okay? Shut that door, please. So anyways, that's why men will go off and die in war. They're willing to sacrifice their life because there is a greater good. There's something in the male genome that has that, like I'm willing to die to protect this, whether it's, the woman and offspring in his cave or whatever. Like there's something in the DNA that does that, where the mother will protect the offspring, you know what I mean, more so than maybe the male will, but like, and then they're also more nurturing. So there's a lot of different things, and I understand that people say, well, men can do that too. Yes, men can be more nurturing, right? And there are studies that show that, like, let's say the mother died in childbirth and the father's taking care of the child, right? Or whatever the circumstances are where the father is just around more. There's a type of chemical that's given off, and it's actually also produced by the male. And it's kind of like when a woman is pregnant, she starts to lactate and produce milk, right? Like this thing is given off based on what the role is this person's doing. And it makes from what I gather, it makes them more like nurturing, but it's also like it's a byproduct of being around small children, right? Like but it's biologically necessary. So, and it's not something that changes their gender or anything crazy like that. But yeah, yes, but on a typical basis, and that's why they believe that men commit suicide more often. As suicidality is higher in men because we also have that proclivity to go out and just die for work. We also do dumb shit like, we'll like jump off a roof into a pool and then we miss and we, get decapitated on the pool wall. Like that's what happens with men because we take these risks. We also have that like, lack of self-preservation for the greater good, right? Like taking your genetic code and prolonging it by dying to defend the remainder of your genetic code, the future of your genetic code in the offspring and the spouse by dying for by dying to protect them from a predator. Predator comes in and you die while killing the predator. Or maybe you die trying and the predator gets everybody, but I mean the thought was there, right? That was the process to expand the species. That all said, so there is that caveat right there in like self-preservation, right? Like so most people are going to consider themselves within that category of us as Americans, we're going to consider ourselves more important with, like I said, those little caveats of like, well, men will typically put their spouse or their offspring in front of their own life. But then there's like, your neighbor and then people, like, and you start getting your way down there to where it's like, it's your neighbors or it's your friend, it's your like nuclear family, it's your indirect an immediate family, and then you have all these things branching out, right, from family to community to city to county to state, all these different things that you're what I mean, like, but like you can't if they're you're not going to, most people won't hold like a stranger's life over a friend's life. But if the chips are down and you're not like sitting there struggling with the decision to go save a friend over some stranger, I mean, and those are moral quandaries that people battle with all the time. But for the rough framework of it, most people are going to, save a friend. If you see somebody in danger, maybe you're very passive or you're not assertive enough, you might not get involved. You might think, oh man, if I go save that person, I may die. And that's part of that self-preservation in the hierarchy. So we're still sticking with the framework here. And that's why, like, it always irks me when people are like, well, they're human too. If you're deporting people home, or if you're, I don't know, if there's people like, if we were Israeli and you had Hamas like blowing up our food supplies and trying to kill and kidnap our people and take hostages, like there is that mindset that like, listen, we have somebody that is trying to threaten our human lives. They are within this category of greater hierarchy. And it's like, and it's in a whole category, right? Like U.S. lives, right? So like if somebody was doing this to the U.S., like we'd wipe out an entire other nation. Like that if one person comes into our country and kills an American citizen, like that should be boom, annihilation of the entire population of that category. Like Uzbekistan decides to start sending a few terrorists, and it's like, sorry, Uzbekistan, like you're no longer on the map. Like that's the mentality people have to have, and there's too many people operating like in this non-self-preservation way where they're like, oh well, it was okay, it was just one guy, and then like we have to support him in prison for the rest of his life while he already killed 10 Americans or something. And you're like, no, that capital punishment for that guy and like retribution for the place that sent him. Like that's, nobody seems to, I don't know, that part irks me. And so like I'm taking that same mentality, right? Like, I'm taking that same mentality and going forward and saying, okay, well, the people that are kind of backwards, right? Where our moral fabric has been like, I don't know if somebody flipped the blanket on our moral fabric. Our moral fabric makes this giant cloth and we flipped it upside down. And so now all of a sudden people have more respect for like dog and cat lives than human lives. And that's where all this went. This is where this like 10-minute rant took us. But it's a basis on things that I think that a lot of people should understand. I don't understand why you think, like, I have a dog and I love my dog. But if my dog bit, not even killed, my dog killed one of my kids, like, dog dead. That's it. Like, you're not going to stop me. Like, he's dead. And then I have to live the rest of my life with a dead kid, right? And I'm not going to grieve one moment over that dog. That's it. Like, and right now he's like one of my really good. He's a friend, right? He's a companion, right? He is still in the hierarchy. Like, he is under human life, and he's well under my wife and my children. He's a member of our household. Now, if somebody comes in and tries to hurt my family, and he attacks a human life to defend him, and someone tries to kill that dog, I will defend that dog's life, because given the circumstances, that person was forfeiting their human life by trying to cause harm to our human lives. And that dog is a tool at that point. He is like my gun. You don't dismantle and liquidate my gun because it was used in the defense of my family, right? So different circumstances. If my dog is just like la-di-da-di-da in the backyard and some kid jumps the fence, well, even then, like, there's no reason the kid should be jumping the fence. That's we don't know what the intent is of the kid, right? Is he 15? Is he 9? Anyways, bad example. Good example is, like, my dog is in the backyard. I don't have a fence. And he, like, runs off onto the sidewalk and bites a child, or bites a 16-year-old, or bites a 28-year-old, or an 89-year-old man. He just goes out there and just bites somebody. Well, guess what? I'm not going to argue. When they come and they say, hey, we need you to surrender all the records. Yes. Okay. Well, hey, we need you to, this is the first time it happens. Maybe there's an exemption. But if they just came to me on the first time and said, hey, we just have a no tolerance policy and your dog's got to get put down. Like, I get it. If they did that, if my kid, I don't know, got rabies and decided to do the same thing, like, I'm going to defend that a little bit more. Like, okay, like, the kid shouldn't be biting people, right? Like, there should be more of a hierarchy and a process there, like 3 strikes and you're out. But even then, there are these different things, but there's a lot of people that are like, no, they can't kill that dog. They can't kill the dog. And you got a 90-year-old man who got his throat ripped out by a pit bull. And you're like, he can't, they can't. The guy's in ICU fighting for his life. And they're like, and there's people on the internet that are, like, defending the dog. Or more specifically, the breed. And then it's like, and then that's where the argument comes in. It's like, great, we can have these discussions. The problem with the internet and doing it, when you're just doing it over text and they're just little quips, if you're not writing, like, an article, an essay to describe your point, and then, like, I feel like a lot of times people's points, like, pithy is not the way to do the internet. If you are quick with little quips, like, they're great for, like, humor and whatever, make you think, but they're not how you win arguments. How you win arguments is to sit down and write the thoughts out if you're going to be in a text-based format. And if you're going to be in a text-based format, that's how you have to do it. You have to sit down and write all this shit out. And then when people reply to you with, like, 2-sentence, you're wrong, like, okay, well, great. Neanderthal, like, you're not concepting this. You're not perceiving this concept. Like, you don't seem to get it. Like, I'm giving you exact arguments and you just saying I'm wrong is not a way to win an argument. And that's where the internet comes in, because it becomes more of like 2 guys sword fighting over a urinal. And that's really what the internet is a cesspool sometimes. And I know that's where you get the show. And so hopefully my show floats on the top of, like, the urine pile that is, the urine pool that is the internet. And you're just like, oh, look at that treasure. Or I'm sunk to the bottom and I'm in there and I am treasure. And so you have to swim through the urine to get this great content. Which don't ever think that there is not a dragon you have to fight for treasure. Okay, so, and in this case, the dragon is the urine pool that is the internet. So, this 15-minute rant now is all for me to be in self-defense, or in defense of, not self-defense, in defense of an officer here locally, right? Like, this is a local politics show, as well as other things, right? We just went into a whole philosophy on how I make decisions, right? Because in order to make good decisions, you have to have moral grounding and you have to have a lot of this framework. And My parents didn't send me to church, but I sent my kids to church. They have way better moral fabric than I do. And I had to learn and start to like loom my own moral fabric based on what I learned about the world and making these judgments and preconceived notions and throwing some out and keeping others. And I think that's where a lot of our problems in society come from, is that nobody really pays attention to the fact that, like, if you raise kids wrong, you know what I mean? Like, and some of us survive, some of us make it, and then we can hopefully hone and guide and take some of that knowledge and bestow it on our children and send them to places where the knowledge has been, percolating for thousands of years, and they can just get a head start. It's like, reading, getting the cliff notes on like books that could spend their whole lives reading, and if they just read or learned one book and they just jumped 20 books ahead, what does that mean for their children? Right? Like, so anyways, it's a local show. So it's partially a local show. So I wanted to dive into the off where a cop was looking into was doing a welfare check on a person in our city, and the dog got out, and the dog bit the cop. And I've done my homework. I've watched all the piss matching, the sword fighting on the internet. It's like it's all dumb because there's all these people that, oh, there it is, a cop killing the dog. They should kill the cop. Like, you see that shit on the internet, and you're like, no, dog growls at cop, shoot it. That's my philosophy, because like, if you see a threat in front of you, I don't care if it's somebody considers it their family, like, you shoot it. If it's that's the thing. Like, if my dog was running off onto the sidewalk to bite somebody, or even if it was just super happy, but the person couldn't tell and they perceived it as a threat and they shot the dog, I'm not faulting them, because like, they didn't know, and their non-knowledge of the situation. Like, oh, well, that's just the dog. It's Cole. It's our dog. He's super happy, even though he charges the fence because he's super excited to see you. But if you didn't know that, and there wasn't a fence there to physically protect you, and you just saw this dog coming at you, and you couldn't tell, like, that's not like the same situation as negligence of the law is no excuse. Like, no. This is negligence of the dog coming at you, that he's a happy dog, is an excuse to shoot the dog, because if you didn't know, if there were no precursors, the dog wasn't like and he's just bolting like, he's gonna, I'm bang, sorry, pull my knife out, like, bro, get up, I'm about to shiv you. Like, that's so anyways. Let's back up 2 weeks, 3 weeks from this incident. Maybe it was a month. It's the day before Good Friday. I had off of work. I was we were doing some remodels on apartments and things like that, and we were doing some work, and I stopped by my house to grab some paperwork, and I met two of the guys there, and they hopped in my truck, and we were rolling out to go to an apartment. And we get up on the side of the road. And I didn't talk about this. I wasn't going to talk about this, but it took until like these little incidences that caused it for me to talk about it. So we roll up on the side of we're driving down southbound on the 200 block of North 6th, and we get to the intersection of Washington Street and the 100 block of North 6th. And so we pull up, and there is a lady trying to pull a dog off of her dog. Like, I'm like, guys, get ready to jump out. And I pull up the side of the road, and both of these guys are 22 to 28. You know what I mean? Like, there's two of them in there, and there's me, 37, right? So, like, just, males under 40, over 20. And we pull right up on the side of the road, and those two bolt out to try to get a handle on the situation as I put the car in park and jump out as well. So I'm shortly behind them. One of the guys, the younger one, has the aggressing dog who's clamped on. It's a pit bull, and it's clamped on, which the only reason I bring up is it's a pit bull is not for its aggression or its intelligence level. It is because they are bred to have a like their genetic code gives them a huge like jaw muscle that like you physically have to use like leverage techniques to get it open. Or some lady on the internet said, "Put your thumb in its ass," and that was after the fact. I wasn't going there, so I didn't even think about it. So we jump out of the car. One guy's got the aggressing dog in a half Nelson. The other one is keeping the lady's other dogs away, and then there's another stray running around, and he's like trying to keep them at bay. The lady's trying to like hold on to her dog and kind of pull it back a little bit. I am got my fingers in this pit bull's mouth, and I cannot break it. So I run back to my truck. I'm like, keep this. I got to go get something. And I get in the back of the truck, and I grab this hammer that my guy George had left. We found it outside like 2 days before. It was in the rain. He left it on one of my trailers. So I was like, oh, this is George's hammer. And so I tossed it in my truck. I'm like, I'm going to make good use of this hammer. It's not going to rust in the rain. It's my buddy George. And 2 days later, that hammer like saved a dog's life. And so I put the hammer claws into the dog's mouth and pried open. And the dog opened up. And then once we got the dog to release, the younger guy pulled the dog back. And that dog was the happy. I just want to take a little side note here. That dog was the happiest dog. He was just like, as soon as you got him loose, you could not tell when he was latched onto another dog. You could not tell when he was latched onto another dog that he was. Can I help you, Lennox?
Did it pass a little bit?
In just a little bit, dude. I've got to finish this one, okay? All right. I'll be out in just a... Oh, you want to grab your iPad? Grab your iPad for a few minutes, okay? I love you too, Bob. So, this dog is the happiest dog you've ever seen, right? But you could not tell when he was clamped onto the other dog's throat, closing off its airway. And you could see that dog. It was like a terrier of some kind. It was a black, shaggy, curly-haired dog, and its eyes were like starting to turn gray and glaze over because it was like, and you couldn't. Anyways, I pried, and that dog was just he released, and he was the happiest little dog. And the lady's in panic mode. We've got this dog restrained. He's trying to go like meet his friends. So that just goes to show you, I think the dog's intelligence level and social skills are pretty poor because he thought he was playing with the other dog. And these dogs are just so massively strong. It's like when Lenny plays with the mouse in Of Mice and Men, and I think I killed it, George. And then he starts petting it, and he keeps a dead mouse throughout the entire story, right? Like, that's it. Some people are too strong, or some creatures are too strong for their own good. And even if they have goodwill intent, like, and then come to find out, like, so then the guy on the truck pulls up alongside of us, and he's like, hey, anybody need what's going on here? We're like, there's an emergency vet clinic, like, a block away. Can you take this lady and her dog to the emergency vet clinic, like a block away, while we continue to hold these dogs off? The lady lived nearby, so my one guy brings the other dogs over to her house, and the neighbor comes down who owns this dog. And I know this neighbor. I didn't know the dog. I know the neighbor. And I like the neighbor. I get along with the neighbor. It's just one of those, like, but it's, like, I hope this doesn't cause any ill will, but like, had that prying technique not worked, the flat side of the nail hitting side of the hammer would have started to go into the dog's dome, right? To release it, because like you're killing this dog. So now you're an aggressor. I don't care how happy you are. You're the aggressor. And that would have been my next step. Like, damage the dog to make him open up, like cause him blunt trauma. Like that was, and it was going to be light at first and then progressively getting worse if it had not, right? Like there's a method to it. And that's what I know with like people that have pit bulls, they tell me about it. I'm like, no, you got to punch them on the top of their head because then they know they've done something wrong because they're so thick skulled that they like just smacking them. It's just no, like that doesn't work. And so that's what I've gathered from all the pit bull owners that I own. I've never owned a pit bull. I don't think I would like to. And so that said, we've got these, like if that didn't work, like eventually like the dog like may die because I'm going to keep hitting it with a hammer to release it from the other dog. Luckily, it went with the first excuse, right, or the first attempt. But like, and this is for a stranger and her dog. Like, I didn't have to get involved, but I did, and that's going back to the initial part about like male proclivity for protecting others, right? That we have that in our DNA. And I'm like I said, there's still there. It doesn't mean that women don't do that. It's just it's more predominant. So if like going back to this dog situation and seeing all the comments about this Officer Ensel situation, if that dog, and this is I thought about this like later that day, watching all the comments on Facebook of like the lady who posted this to thank us because my wife had tagged us in it, and I was like, I didn't want, I was we weren't doing it for the recognition. We were doing it because we were there in the moment and we were doing something good, and so that's why I didn't bring it up till now. But then I watch all these other things, and it's all about good decision making. So if we have a fleet of people in our community that are doing good things, if you can maybe start mending the moral fabric of our society where there's tons of people making good decisions, hopefully like I do, I would assume that the decisions that I make are good, right? And so but if other people can make similar decisions and can act in the moment and can have that veracity, that's what I hope. I'm not trying to sit here and toot my horn, but the decision making that I would have made if this dog was clamped onto this lady in anywhere, her throat, her arm, her leg, there would be no putting the hammer gingerly in the dog's mouth and starting to pry. It would claw side down, not the nail hitting side, and I would have bludgeoned that dog to death just to save that lady. Like, I don't care if the dog was just like put a couple teeth holes in the lady. The dog dead. Like, you attack human, like, you dead. Like, that's it. That is it. And people on the internet are going nuts. I'm sure people are going to go nuts when they watch this video. But guess what? You have to watch 30 minutes of it for me to tell you that. I mean, you probably know where it's going, but you got to wait 30 minutes just to find this. Just to find this part. Kevin kills dog. Kevin's going to kill a dog. Like, no. I'm going to kill a dog in the moment when the scenario is correct. I'm not going out there. I'm not just like on the hunt, bloodthirsty for dogs. If that dog was going after that woman, dog dead. Like, as instantly as I could get instant out of that. Like, sorry. If I hit the dog the first time and wounded it and it let go and we could restrain the dog, then the dog wouldn't die. We'd leave it to the authorities to handle. But if that dog was refusing to let go and we couldn't get it off the lady's ankle or something, like it would be until it was lifeless. Like, that would have been my protocol. Like, and in the moment, sometimes you can't. It's difficult to gauge, and like maybe the dog released right before he died. Like, it's just those are the things that happen, and that's why you have to give. Like, that's why people need to understand that you have to give like cops grace because they do this on a daily basis, and it's hard to live in that moment. And then you have like the entire fear. So a week later, I run into another officer that I know, and he was on our block. It was opposite side of the street from where that dog lived, right? And he was like, man, he's like, a dog came out of some old guy's house and bit a 16-year-old or something, or a 15 or 14-year-old, some kid in their teens, under adult age, bit him. And he went to go just, like do a report, do the questioning. The kid was all right. Like, the dog was restrained. He goes and knocks on the guy's door, and the dog bolts out. And the dog chases him down the block. Like, he's got his gun drawn, from what I gather, or his taser drawn or whatever. Like, he's like, I got to let the dog bite me so that the social media mob doesn't come after me. And this is a completely different cop than the one in the story. But it's just one of those, like, what do you do? You have to let the dog bite you so that social media doesn't come after you. Like, that's the mentality. And it's like, no. What happens if you're in the moment and that dog is on another child and it's like, well, it's not biting. Is the child losing life? Like, I'm not saying that cop would have that. I would hope that he would shoot him instantly. Without like, knowing where the projection of his gun is, the bullet's going to go and doesn't hit the child. And we're going down rabbit holes with scenarios here, but like this is a legitimate scenario. The dog came after this guy, and the neighbors and the old guy were able to get the dog inside. And so he was like, but it was a close one. And he was rattled. He was rattled because he was like, man, I almost had to kill a dog. Nobody wants to kill a dog. Nobody wants to go out of their way to kill a dog, right? Even if it's an aggressor, it's coming at you. You don't want to. But if you have to, And you still have to live with that. Like, I get it, man. I'm not a heartless monster that's just out here murdering dogs. Like, I I get it. I understand that. But you also have to understand the other side of it. And the other side of it is human life is more important than animal lives. I'm sorry. If a pigeon comes down and like pokes my kid's eye out, every pigeon on this planet is dead. And that is my philosophy. Like, nope, you just declared war with humans. Pigeons are now extinct. Like, that would be the philosophy. And that should be, because human life is so important. Human life is so important that one non-human life that threatens it should cause an entire species to go extinct. Like, that's how important a human life is. So you can say, well, we don't do that. Okay, well, we don't. But human life is so important that is appropriate. And that's all I'm saying. That's how important human life is. Over dogs, over cats, over pigeons, over lions and tigers and bears, and even whatever the oh my's are. So, going on a 30-minute rant about this. But yes, so like that was another situation that could have made its way on Facebook, but it didn't. It didn't make it into the piss pool of the internet. And then you go back to Dylan, to Officer Renzel, sorry. And he got bit. And then the dog released. After he pepper sprayed him, the dog released. And then the dog reattached, from what I gather. And he did everything in his power to like, he let the dog, like, I don't think he let the dog bite him. I don't think he was like, oh, if I want to de-escalate this situation, I want to kill this dog like that. I don't think that's what was going through his mind. From what I gather, the dog got loose and went right for him, which, hey, you don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? The dog's a tool, right? So if the dog comes to defend the home and it's a misuse, right? Like, if my gun were used to defend my home and I realize it's not, like, it's the Girl Scouts, guess what? I go to jail. My gun gets dismantled and liquefied, right? Like, and that's what that, you know what I mean? Like, I know they were doing a welfare check. I have a rough idea of who the gentleman who lives in that home is. I'm pretty sure I know who it is. And if it's the same gentleman, then, like, house, I wasn't excited about doing it. It's not the greatest home in the world, and from what I gather, he's had more police posts from the police department than this. Normally, it's raids, arrests, executions of warrants. So I mean, it's not like he's the retired guy who was a co-founder of Home Hospice Care or something, or community action leader, retired 80-year-old guy. No, like, he's probably 10 years older than I am, 15 years older than I am. I mean, we may be stretching 40 or 20, and it's like, okay, so you're 57, like, you're almost 60, like, okay, like, that's stretching, and it's like you have a very checkered past, my friend. You better put in a huge tall fence, because your dogs are aggressive and they go after people, so you got to blind them with a privacy fence. And I'm sure the privacy fence is also for privacy of other nefarious activities, but it is what it is. I mean. And then to say, like, well, the owner should have had control of his dog. Yes, the owner should have had control of his dog. And, like, if my dog bit one of those people, I would also expect to get, like, an appearance ticket and see criminal fines, because it was my responsibility to guard my dog from the hypothetical situation where he bit somebody and they had to put the dog down. So, but for people to be like, oh, 30 cops a day, they're posting statistics, 30 dogs a day die at police hands. It's like, it's called line of duty. Like, 100 doors a day are killed by cops. Like, yeah, because cops are executing warrants and they don't answer the door. And these people are high threat level to other human life. So the door had to die. We had to kick the door down, kick it off the frame. And yeah, so it's the same thing. Doing a wellness check and your dog attacks it. It's like if your shotgun grew legs and just started attacking the cop. Like, oh, he shot my shotgun. Like, well, your shotgun shouldn't have just came after a cop that was doing a welfare check or wellness check on a senior citizen. Well, the way they described it on Facebook, it sounded like he was a senior citizen. He ain't collecting Social Security. Like, he ain't that old. I'm wondering if it was just like how, like, certain things are victimless crimes. I'm wondering if it was like a victimless crime type of welfare check. Like, dad sitting there with a band around his arm or whatever. Like, it's one of those things. So like, and then for the cop to be vilified, and I do appreciate all the people like swimming in the piss pool of the internet that were in defense of Officer Ensel. So I can't like say that like, but it's still like it would just irks you is that like it's usually more than 50% of people are bashing cops. This one was only like 30%, but it still drives you nuts that you're just like, ugh, they're bashing the police officer for he's a dog, he killed a puppy, the puppy that was right next to a daycare. Get out of here. What if he had lions in the house? Like, that's what I would treat an aggressive dog as. Like, it should be treated as, like, this guy is keeping lions there. You should have a requirement that has, like treat it like the raptor from Jurassic Park. Okay? They kept it inside of a caged-in area, inside of a larger caged-in area. If you have a dog that's aggressive enough to just bolt out of the house and just bite something, I'm sorry, you either need to take better precautions, especially if you live next to a daycare. You should be taking the utmost precautions, because if one of those killed a baby, killed a little kid, yeah, human life is important, but I would consider you the idiot that caused it. And like, I would be asking for capital punishment against you if a kid died over your dog. Like, if a kid just gets bit, like, okay, well, you just got a criminal charge for, like negligence of your dog, and then your dog gets put down. Like, if the kid dies and it was just because, like, oh, the dog got out of the fence, like, your lack of maintenance on your restraint for your vicious animal, like, sorry, that little kid did nothing. They weren't old enough to have a criminal record. Okay? Most likely not. And for a kid to die next to that daycare, like, yeah, nope, sorry. You're getting the death penalty, and your dog, well, already got it. And that's how I would view that. So it's probably one of the reasons why I would never be appointed to be a judge, because I would tell it how it is, and I would respect human life and the way our society is going, because the moral fabric is starting to incinerate away from some of these key areas, like human life is important. People like look at me like, yeah, human life is important until a dog gets killed. Yeah, we should kill all the people on the planet because they killed one dog. Like, no, fuck, people are stupid. The moral, like the mental, like, stupidity of certain people, especially on the internet, when you see it, like, it actually undermines my case for why human life is important, because you see how stupid people are, and you're like, maybe Kevin's wrong. These people are so dumb. Like, and I don't want to go down one of those rabbit holes, because, like, there's no good that can come from that. No, we have a strict standard here. It is human life is more important than animals, regardless of how stupid the people are. Regardless of how, like, moral, like, immoral their checkered past with the the police department is. So leave the cops alone, guys. So I know all of you wanted to hear Kevin's almost 40-minute rant on dogs, and that's going to get me into another one that we'll do probably later, because this one went way longer than I expected, and I have shit to do today. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow, next time, later today, whenever, on Life22. Title text.